Hello and welcome to Treasury Notes, a financial education program from the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. I'm your host, Gina Joins. The West Virginia State Treasurer's Office serves as the bank of state government, managing billions of dollars in state revenue every year. Beyond the basic Treasury functions, the office manages several programs that directly serve the citizens of West Virginia. One of those programs is the Hope Scholarship Program, which is in its second year after state legislation was passed to create the Educational Savings Account program. Hope Scholarship allows West Virginia students in kindergarten through 12th grade to receive financial assistance for qualifying educational expenses. Joining me today to share more information about the program is Amy Willard, Assistant Treasurer of Savings Programs for the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. Amy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And let's just really start with the basics because this is a newer program. Can you just tell us a little bit about the Hope Scholarship Program and how it came about?
Sure. So the Hope Scholarship Program is an educational savings account. It's a state-funded account, and essentially the funds that would have followed a student to the public school system is placed into a savings account for the student for them to spend on qualifying educational experiences and really craft their own educational experience that's tailored to them.
So really, it's kind of a school choice initiative that the legislature passed, and there is an amount, specific amount that a family could receive each year for students who qualify for the Hope Scholarship, correct?
Correct. So the amount changes each year. For the 24-25 school year, the amount will be $4,921.39. The amount is based on the state aid funding for public school students. So, that amount changes annually, so the Hope Scholarship amount changes each year.
And the thought is that the money follows the student then.
Correct.
For their educational experience. So to get the Hope Scholarship, I guess the big question is, how do you apply? Can you apply for that process, and what exactly does that entail?
Sure. So if you go to our website, which is www.hopescholarshipwv.com, at the bottom of the main page, there's a link that'll say, click here to apply. And you just click on that link, and it will take you to the Education Market Assistant, or EMA portal. And in that EMA portal, the first step is you'll create a Guardian account. Once you have your Guardian account created, then you'll put some basic information about your students in the system and then be able to click to apply for the Hope Scholarship Program.
And right now we're seeing a scroll of the website, which I want to mention is packed with important information for anyone who's interested in the Hope Scholarship. So that's really, kind of the main place to go if you have questions or concerns. That's the starting point, right?
Correct.
So go to the website, but if you do want to apply, there are some deadlines that you do have to consider. Now, if you're currently in the school year, which we're getting toward the end of this school year now, that deadline has passed, but you can start applying now for the 24-25 school year. Is that correct?
That is correct. We opened for new applications for the 24-25 school year on March 1st.
And tell us a little bit about that application period.
Sure. I'm happy to announce that the Hope Scholarship Board changed the application process. Like before, we had a very strict deadline of when applications were due. Now, as we've kind of had some experience with the program, the board has said that we'll accept applications year-round, but the timing of your application for the scholarship determines the amount of Hope Scholarship funding that you will receive. So we have a main application window to receive 100% of the scholarship funding that runs from March 1st to June 15th each year. And then if you apply between June 16th and September 15th, then you would receive 75% of the scholarship amount. If you apply between September 16th and November 30th each year, you would get 50%. And if you apply between December 1st and then February 28th, it would be 25%. And then anything after February 28th would be applying for the subsequent school year. So if you apply after February 28th of 2025, you would be applying for the 25-26 school year.
Okay, so if a family is considering applying for this Hope Scholarship, but they haven't decided and they're not sure yet where they want their child to go to school, what should they do? Should they go ahead and apply for the 24-25 school year? Should they wait until they know for sure what their student's plan is? What's the best case scenario for that?
Well, I mean, they have until June 15th to kind of have a better decision in mind. But if they're still not sure at that point, if they're maybe waiting to get into a non-public school or something like that, and they just don't have an answer, but they know that they would want the full scholarship amount if they did move forward with making that school choice, they should just go ahead and apply by that June 15th deadline. The good news is that with the open application window, if somebody didn't learn about the program until after June 15th or just really wasn't 100% sure and they apply, in July, they can still get the scholarship. It'll just be for a reduced amount for that first year. And then as they renew and continue participation in the program, it's the full scholarship amount after that.
And the students do have to renew every year if they want to continue participation.
Yes,
it's not just automatic.
Right. They do have to let us know and send in continued proof of residency and things like that to let us know that they want to continue in the program.
So if you're interested in the program, I'm just going to stress that again, that it is important to make sure you understand the current rules of the program because they can change.
Correct.
And you want to go to the website to make sure you have the most up-to-date information. One question I'm sure you get a lot is what happens if I start my child in a private school or non-public school situation and then they decide to go back to public school? What happens with those funds?
So if you start the school year in a non-public school or homeschooling your child through the Individualized Instructional Plan or IIP Pathway for Hope, and then you decide that that's really not for you and you want to return to public school, you just need to let us know at the Hope Scholarship Board staff. You can email us and just let us know that your students returning to public school. There is a requirement in the parent agreement for the Hope Scholarship to send us that notification, because at that point, if you return to public school full time, you're no longer eligible for the program, and then the funds that would be remaining in your Hope Scholarship account would return back to the state.
Could you reapply after, if you decided at a later date to go back out of public school?
Yes. So if you make that change in the middle of the school year to go back to public school, you can't hop in and out during the same year, but you could apply for the subsequent school year and make, a different school choice at that point. If you go ahead and decline the scholarship, say you decide end of July, early August, I'm just going to go ahead and decline now, and you never really participate in Hope because you decline it, before the school year starts, then you could still apply during the year if you had a change in circumstance and decided you really wanted that scholarship.
So let's take a step back and just talk about who really can apply for the Hope Scholarship. Can you go over those general eligibility requirements for a student who may want to participate?
Sure. So you have to be a West Virginia resident. That's
number one.
Number
That's
one,
important.
yes.
Yeah.
You have to be a West Virginia resident. It's only for students in grades kindergarten through 12th. It is not for students in pre-K. So a student has to be at least an incoming kindergartner to be eligible for the program. There are three main pathways to Hope eligibility. So one is you would be an incoming kindergartner for the year for which you're applying for the Hope Scholarship. So for the 24-25 school year, that would be the year that your child would be starting kindergarten. You can also have been in public school for the full academic year preceding the year for which you're applying. So you're applying for 24-25, so if you've been in public school for all of the 23-24 school year. And then the third pathway is what we call the 45-day rule, which is where a student who would otherwise not eligible for the program would return to public school for 45 consecutive calendar days. And they have to be enrolled full-time and attending the public school during that period with at least a 90% attendance rate. And at the end of that 45-day window where they're enrolled in public school, they can apply for the Hope Scholarship. They have to stay enrolled in attending the public school with that 90% attendance rate until they receive a decision on their child's Hope application. If they withdraw their child too early and we haven't checked their eligibility status yet, then they would end up being found ineligible for the program because they are not actively enrolled at the time that we're checking. So it's important to make sure you get that 90% attendance rate, and it's important that you stay in public school until you get a Hope Scholarship award letter.
So the note here is, any incoming kindergartner would really be eligible to apply from the get-go for a Hope Scholarship, but if you're older than that age and you're in another grade level, you would have to be a public school student for a certain amount of time before you're eligible to apply for the Hope Scholarship. So that kind of leads to the question that current private school students or current homeschool students or students who are not in public school are not eligible for the Hope Scholarship program as it stands right now today.
As it stands right now today, those students are not eligible to participate in Hope. There is the 45-day pathway if they wanted to go ahead and become eligible, and there are some potential triggers in the Hope Scholarship Act that would allow for expanded participation in starting with the 26-27 school year, if depending on participation rates in the program, but it's too soon to tell if that would be triggered and expand eligibility at that point in time.
All right. And we talked a little bit about the eligibility requirements affecting children who are entering kindergarten. That's if you're a new parent, that's where you really want to be thinking about this, right?
Yes. So if you're an incoming kindergartner, that is your opportunity to apply for the scholarship. There are some caveats. Normally to be an incoming kindergartner, you have to be 5 years old before July 1st. There are a lot of parents who want to send their child to kindergarten early, and we do have a pathway where that could possibly happen under the Hope Scholarship. The county boards of education are permitted by statute to have an early entrance process for kindergarten where they can put children through some tests to determine if they're academically and socially and emotionally ready for kindergarten. And so a family whose child would turn 5 after July 1st could go through a public school early entrance testing program. And if the public school system says that they would be ready to start kindergarten early, then they would also be eligible to start the Hope Scholarship early. And they would wait until they had that eligibility letter from the County Board of Education before they apply in the Emma system for the scholarship, and they would have to upload a copy of that either letter or the testing results or whatever the county board would provide to them that shows that they're eligible for early kindergarten entrance, and they would have to upload that with their application.
And you mentioned the Emma system, and that's the system that you're currently using.
Yes, that is our current online platform where families apply for the scholarship.
All right. You mentioned about the 45-day rule, so I did want to touch on that very quickly. Can you maybe further explain what that is, and what constitute 45 days? Are those 45 consecutive days? Do holidays count and weekends factor into that?
Yes, sure. So the 45 consecutive calendar days, it's calendar days. So once you start the clock on your 45 days based on when you enroll in the public school system and when they have that documented in the WEVA system, it's 45 calendar days. So weekends, holidays, spring break, Christmas break, just kind of whatever falls within those 45 consecutive calendar days, that's what we're considering for the eligibility. I already mentioned the 90% attendance rate. A lot of families who do the 45-day rule pick a virtual program. It can be virtual or in person for your 45-day public school attendance. And we just stress the importance of knowing how attendance is going to be calculated especially if you're doing the virtual programs, because every county or the public charter schools each have a different way of how they count that attendance for the day. And so you don't want to be caught unaware with some unexpected absences because you weren't logged on for a minimum number of minutes or something to that effect. So it's important to check with your public school that you're going to be attending. And then also we have a lot of questions in our FAQs on our website that talk about the 45-day rule. So I would encourage any family who's considering doing the 45 days to read those FAQs before they get started.
Yeah, and a lot of people talk about dual enrollment as an option, and so that's something you want to check on as well.
Yeah, so the Attorney General issued an opinion letter that said dual enrollment is permissible. So dual enrollment is where your child is enrolled in attending a public school program full time, while at the same time they are also doing a non-public school or homeschool educational option as well. So basically they're doing double school for that 45-day window. So there are families who, have taken advantage of dual enrollment and done a virtual program while also, attending non-public school. That's maybe not the best decision for every child because it just depends on your child and their capabilities, and, just know that they'll be doing double the work while they're doing that, because they do have to meet all the public school requirements while they're enrolled. So they have to have that attendance rate, they have to do the assignments, they have to, make sure that they're actually attending public school while they do the dual enrollment.
All right, thanks so much, Amy. We're here today talking about West Virginia's Hope Scholarship Program. Right now, we are going to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll talk more about what happens after a child qualifies for Hope Scholarship and what happens next. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The West Virginia State Treasurer's Vault is holding millions in unclaimed property. From uncashed checks to forgotten utility deposits, we want to return your money to you. Find out if you have unclaimed property. Search your name at wvtreasury.com.
Welcome back to Treasury Notes. I'm your host, Gina Joins. Today I'm here with Amy Willard, Assistant Treasurer of Savings Programs for the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. Before the break, we talked about eligibility requirements and applying for the Hope Scholarship. Now let's talk about what happens once you qualify. And Amy, this is probably the thing that parents most want and need to know is how do families receive their Hope Scholarship funds, and then how do they spend them on the necessary items?
Sure. So the Hope Scholarship funds are placed into an individual account for each student in our online portal, which is currently the Emma system. And so each student, so if you have more than one student, when you log in on your dashboard, you'll see a balance for each student. And the funds are sent twice a year to your student's Hope Scholarship account. Half the funds are sent by no later than August 15th each year, and the second half of your scholarship funds are sent by no later than January 15th each year. So you kind of get your funds in 2 installments, and then from your child's Hope Scholarship account, you are going to spend those funds directly with participating education service providers. There's a very limited reimbursement policy where only certain items are eligible for reimbursement. If you buy things out of pocket, the main goal is for everything to be paid directly with a participating provider.
And participating providers, ideally, or in many cases, that's going to be a school that's just a non-public school where they're charging a tuition rate, and then that money would go on to that entity to pay the tuition rate.
Yes. We have a lot of schools, non-public schools that participate, but there are other types of education service providers as well. Tutors, therapists, piano lessons. There's just a variety of different providers who are signed up to provide services with the Hope Scholarship Program.
So let's talk a little bit more about what people can spend their scholarship funds on. You mentioned maybe music lessons, things like that. Are there tangible items as well, and not just tuition rates that they could spend their funds on?
Yeah. So like in addition to just traditional non-public school tuition, there's also micro school tuition is allowed, educational therapies, but then we have things like basic school supplies are on the list, certain technology equipment, if you were taking a CTE course, any specialized equipment that you would need for that. So the full list can be found in our parent handbook that is on the website. And so that has the comprehensive list of everything that's either been approved through statute, through legislative rule, or just through board action that a parent can spend their funds on. And then we also, at our last board meeting, the board adopted a non-qualifying expense list or an unallowable expense list. Because there were, we had gotten some requests for items that, clearly weren't within the scope of the Hope Scholarship Program. And so you can find that list on our website as well. It is a separate list. It's not part of the handbook, but you can find it on the page for current students. And it lists, all the things that the board has currently listed as unallowable.
So the parents aren't getting the funds in hand. It's not like they're getting a check or a card to go and just use as they see fit. They actually have to go through this portal and do all the transactions through the portal. And the vendors also have to go through the portal as well.
Yes, everything, the goal is for everything to take place in the portal, other than the limited things that the board has authorized for reimbursement, which are things like homeschool curriculum, and then some academic testing, and then some specialized equipment that we might not have available for purchase through the online portal. But generally all of the transactions are taking place just directly facilitated by the online portal.
And if a student doesn't use all their funds for the current school year, how does that work? Do they get to, does that money roll over? How does that work for the student?
Yeah, so the money would roll over to next school year. So as long as they, notify us that they want to continue participation in the program, and as long as they turn in all of their year-end academic reporting requirements to their county board of education, or their non-public school turns in their enrollment notification to the county. So as long as they're going to get to participate in the program the next year, the money just rolls forward, and then it would just get added to whatever balance of new funding that they would receive for the next year.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate again, there is a process for parents and students to participate in this program. They want to make sure they go to the website, make sure you understand the program so that you're able to apply and be accepted and follow the rules. But there's also some steps that service providers have to take to participate as well. So not just anyone can receive Hope Scholarship funds as a service provider, they have to take some steps as well.
Right, so the process is a little different depending on what type of vendor you are. For non-public schools, there's an interest form on our website that they would fill out and enter some information, and then we would facilitate getting a school account created for them in the Emma system. But for someone who wants to be like a tutor, or a therapist who wants to participate, or a dance studio, whatever you might be that wants to participate in Hope, you can just go on to the Emma platform. On our website in the upper right hand corner, there's a link to get you to the Emma account. And instead of creating a Guardian account, you would be creating a business account, and you would just basically be signing up your business. You have to agree to participate, like agree to all of the terms and conditions for providers to participate in the program, and sign that provider agreement that you're going to follow all of the rules. But once you have done that, you provide some banking information. You're going to set up service orders or service offerings that say, I'm going to charge $50 an hour for tutoring, for example, or whatever service it is you provide. You pick from some pre-selected options from a list of allowable services, and then once those are approved by the Hope Scholarship team, then parents are able to see that provider in the Emma platform, and they're able to go on and place orders and use their Hope funds with that provider.
So if you want to be an education service provider and receive Hope Scholarship Scholarship funds, you go through the same website
Yes.
as well as the parents would as well.
Yes.
So that's important to note. We want to make sure that the service providers have that information because, like I said, that can be changing too. So you want to go to the website for the latest information on that. And, I just want to make note, we talked about this is something the legislature enacted a few years ago. There is a governing board. State Treasurer Riley Moore is chair of that board, and there's several other board members, and then there's some great staff working on the program.
Yes.
And we appreciate all that the staff is doing for this program for sure, but I know that you have some hardworking staff behind the scenes that are trying to keep up with all of these changes because it is an evolving program.
Yes, we have had a lot of changes just in recent months with, changes that the board made and then, the new application window opening. And so it has been a lot of work. We try to keep up with the emails and phone calls as best we can, but it is a really high volume. And so if we haven't gotten back with you yet, we will as soon as we can.
Yeah, and I just want to make mention of that because, like I said, I keep encouraging people to go to the website. You also said there's a handbook on the website, and I think that has a lot of useful information in it as well, correct?
Yes, the handbook has, all of the rules to participate in the program. It has a copy of the parent agreement that you have to sign to participate in the program. It also, just has the basic rules, links to the reimbursement policy, links to other things that would be helpful for all of our families. So it's really important for everyone to kind of look at that updated handbook because we did just update it. I believe it was in February.
And last final push I want to say is if you're interested in the Hope Scholarship, or if you already, I guess if you're already a Hope Scholarship participant, you want to make sure that you reapply every year because you will not be considered if you don't submit that paperwork every year.
Correct. For renewal applicants for the 24-25 school year, the deadline is June 15th. And so if you don't meet that June 15th deadline to let us know that you want to continue participation in the program, then you would have to apply again as a new applicant and then reestablish your eligibility for the program. So that is a hard deadline, and so it's really important that most of our, that all of our renewal families meet that deadline and get their renewal applications sent in.
Okay, any final thoughts?
I would like to remind everybody that once you're awarded for the Hope Scholarship Program, there is a requirement in statute for you to send a notice of intent letter to your local county board of education. We had a lot of families who missed that step this year, and so we're, currently in a campaign to try to reach out to those families because they do not have a notice of intent on file with the county board of education. It's a one-time requirement for you to send in this notice of intent form. So once you do it one time, even for your incoming kindergartner, unless you move or change Hope Scholarship pathways from non-public school to individualized instructional plan or vice versa, you never have to send it in again. So it's just a one-time thing. We have a sample form on our website, so it's really important that you get that turned in to your county board of education. And then I also want to remind people that there are year-end reporting requirements. If your student attends a non-public school that's participating in the program, the non-public school will do the work. They will send in a notice to your county superintendent saying that you attended their non-public school for the year. But if you are doing an individualized instructional plan or homeschooling your child, there are year-end academic reporting requirements, either testing results for nationally normed tests or a portfolio review form with a certified teacher that has to be turned in by June 8th each year.
Okay.
So important requirements.
All right, thanks so much. And that's all the time we have. You can always stay up to date at our wvtreasury.com website. Thank you so much for joining us and keeping you informed on the Library Television Network. I'm Gina Joins with the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office.